Camas Rodriguez had been cleaning corporate offices for 3 years, but he'd never seen a chess set worth $50,000 sitting on someone's desk until today. The ornate pieces gleamed under the fluorescent lights as he carefully dusted around them, his weathered hands trembling slightly as memories of another life threatened to surface. What he didn't know was that CEO Marcus Lane was watching from the doorway, a cruel smile spreading across his face as he prepared to humiliate the quiet janitor in front of the entire staff. What Marcus didn't know was that James had once been ranked among the top 100 chess players in the country before tragedy struck his family. The first move James would make in just minutes would send shockwaves through the gleaming conference room. And by the final move, the arrogant CEO would be left speechless, his career hanging by a thread. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. The gleaming marble floors of Pinnacle Industries reflected the afternoon sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows as James Rodriguez pushed his cleaning cart down the executive corridor. His uniform, though clean and pressed, bore the weight of countless hours spent maintaining the pristine offices of people who barely acknowledged his existence. At 42, James had the kind of quiet dignity that came from weathering life's storms while still showing up every day to do honest work. The executive conference room buzzed with the energy of another successful quarterly meeting. Marcus Lane, the 38-year-old CEO who had inherited the company from his father, stood at the head of the polished mahogany table, his tailored suit and confident posture commanding attention from his senior B staff. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his smile practiced and sharp, and his eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had never known real struggle. "Gentlemen, ladies," Marcus announced, gesturing toward the ornate chess set positioned on a side table near the window. "I see some of you admiring my latest acquisition, 18th-century Staunton pieces, hand-carved from ebony and boxwood, cost me $50,000 at auction last week." His laugh carried the easy arrogance of inherited wealth. "Anyone brave enough for a match?" The executives chuckled nervously, knowing better than to challenge their boss at anything. Marcus had a reputation for turning friendly competitions into exercises in dominance, and nobody wanted to risk their career on a chess game. James continued his methodical cleaning, wiping down surfaces and emptying wastebaskets while trying to remain invisible. But his eyes kept drifting to the chess set. The pieces seemed to call to him, stirring memories he had spent 3 years trying to suppress. His fingers unconsciously moved in patterns, muscle memory playing out combinations that had once brought him fame and promise. "What about you?" Marcus's voice cut through the quiet hum of conversation, and James looked up to find the CEO staring directly at him. "You've been eyeing my chess set for the past 10 minutes. Do you play?" The room fell silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward James, some curious, others embarrassed by the awkward moment their boss had created. James felt heat rise in his cheeks as he gripped the handle of his cleaning cart tighter. "I used to play a little, sir," James said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus's grin widened like a predator sensing weakness. "A little? How refreshing. Tell you what, Rodriguez, since everyone else here seems too intimidated by my reputation, why don't you and I have a friendly game, right here, right now, in front of everyone?" Sarah Chen, the head of marketing, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She had always treated James with basic respect, unlike some of her colleagues, and she could see the trap Marcus was setting. "Marcus, maybe we should get back to the quarterly projections." "Nonsense!" Marcus waved her off, his eyes never leaving James. "This will just take a few minutes. I promise to go easy on him." He paused, letting his next words hang in the air like a challenge. "In fact, I'm so confident I'll make this interesting. Beat me in chess, Rodriguez, and I'll fire myself. Walk away from this company today and never come back." The executives exchanged glances, some amused, others uncomfortable with their boss's casual cruelty. They all knew this was just another display of Marcus's need to assert dominance, to remind everyone of their place in his carefully constructed hierarchy. James stood frozen, his mind racing. Every instinct told him to decline politely, to finish his cleaning and disappear back into the background where he belonged. But something in Marcus's tone, the casual dismissal of his humanity, ignited a spark of the competitor he had once been. "And if you win, sir?" James asked, his voice steadier now. Marcus laughed, the sound echoing off the conference room walls. "When I win, you'll have learned a valuable lesson about knowing your place. Consider it professional development." He gestured toward the chess set. "So, what do you say? Ready to be educated?" James looked around the room at the faces staring back at him. Some showed pity, others anticipation for the entertainment about to unfold. None of them knew about the small apartment where his 8-year-old daughter Sophia waited for him each evening, or about the medical bills that had forced him to abandon his dreams, or about the chess trophies gathering dust in a storage unit he could no longer afford to keep. "All right, sir," James said, abandoning his cleaning cart and walking toward the chess set. "Let's play." The executives quickly arranged chairs around the chessboard, creating an impromptu arena for the mismatch they were about to witness. Marcus took the chair facing the windows, positioning himself so the light would be at his back and in James's eyes. It was a small psychological advantage, the kind of detail that revealed his win at all costs mentality. "White or black?" Marcus asked, already reaching for the white pieces. "I'll take black," James replied, settling into his chair with surprising composure. Marcus moved his king's pawn 2 squares forward, a classical opening that most amateur players would recognize. He leaned back in his chair with casual confidence, already envisioning the quick mate he would deliver in front of his audience. James studied the board for a long moment, his fingers hovering over his pieces. The familiar weight of the wooden figures felt strange after 3 years away from competitive play, but muscle memory began to reassert itself. His mind started calculating lines of play, seeing patterns that had once been as natural as breathing. When he moved his knight to King's Bishop 3, a murmur rippled through the watching executives. It wasn't the move most casual players would make. It was sharp, aggressive, and immediately signaled that this game might not go as expected. Marcus's confident smile faltered slightly as he recognized the Alekhine defense, a hyper-modern opening that required precise knowledge to navigate properly. He had expected a simple king's pawn response, not this sophisticated choice that immediately put pressure on White's center. "Interesting," Marcus muttered, leaning forward to study the position more carefully. He pushed his queen's pawn forward, trying to establish classical control of the center. James responded immediately, his knight dancing to Queen's Bishop 4, attacking the exposed pawn. The move was precise, purposeful, and executed with the kind of natural fluidity that spoke of deep understanding. Around the improvised arena, whispers began to spread among the executives. This wasn't unfolding like the humiliation they had expected to witness. The janitor was playing with a sophistication that surprised everyone in the room. Dr. Patricia Williams, the head of research and development, found herself leaning forward despite her initial discomfort with the spectacle. She had played chess in college and recognized the subtle brilliance of James's position building. "He's not just moving pieces randomly," she whispered to her colleague. "He has a plan." Marcus felt sweat beginning to form on his forehead as he realized this game would require his full attention. He had won his previous chess matches through intimidation and basic tactical knowledge, but James was demonstrating a level of strategic thinking that demanded respect. The CEO pushed his bishop to King 3, trying to develop his pieces and maintain some semblance of the initiative. But James had already begun weaving a positional web that would gradually strangle White's hopes of easy victory. James's next move, advancing his queen's pawn to the 4th rank, further expanded Black's influence over the central squares. It was a move that required courage, accepting potential weaknesses in exchange for dynamic piece play and long-term strategic advantages. "Where did you learn to play like this?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his tone light while his mind struggled to find the right path forward. "My father taught me when I was 6, James replied quietly, his eyes never leaving the board. "He said chess was like life. Every move matters, and you have to think about consequences before you act." The simple answer carried weight that surprised everyone listening. There was something in James's voice, a depth of experience that suggested his chess knowledge ran much deeper than casual weekend games. Marcus castled kingside, seeking safety for his monarch while trying to bring his rook into play. It was a solid choice, but James had anticipated it several moves earlier and was ready with a response that would further complicate White's position. James advanced his kingside knight to the edge of the board, a seemingly counterintuitive move that drew puzzled looks from some observers. But those with deeper chess understanding recognized the maneuver as part of a sophisticated plan to reroute the knight to a more effective square. "Bold choice," commented Robert Nash, the chief financial officer, who had played competitively in high school. "He's sacrificing time to improve his worst-placed piece." Marcus studied the position for several minutes, his confidence continuing to erode as he realized that every move James made served multiple purposes. This wasn't amateur-level chess. This was the kind of sophisticated play he had only encountered in online matches against titled players. The CEO advanced his queen's knight, trying to contest the center and create some counterplay. But James was ready, his pieces coordinating with mathematical precision to maintain his growing advantage. As the game progressed, James's true skill became increasingly apparent to the watching executives. His moves flowed with natural rhythm, each decision building upon the last to create a position of subtle but undeniable superiority. He wasn't just reacting to Marcus's threats, he was controlling the game's direction with quiet authority. Marcus, meanwhile, found himself playing more defensively with each passing move. His pieces became increasingly cramped as James's strategic vision unfolded across the 6-4 squares. The CEO's earlier arrogance had transformed into grim concentration as he realized he was being systematically outplayed. "This is incredible," whispered Jennifer Torres, the head of human resources. "Look how he's positioning his pieces. Every move serves 3 different purposes." James brought his other knight into the game via a different route, creating a powerful central formation that dominated the board's key squares. His pawns advanced in coordinated waves, each push calculated to restrict Marcus's options while expanding his own possibilities. The turning point came when James offered a tactical shot that seemed to give Marcus an opportunity to win material. The CEO's eyes lit up as he saw what appeared to be a mistake, reaching eagerly for his bishop to capture James's seemingly undefended knight. But James had seen much deeper into the position. The moment Marcus completed his capture, James unleashed a devastating combination that began with a quiet pawn move and exploded into tactics that left Marcus's position in ruins. "Oh my God," breathed Sarah Chen as the implications of James's sequence became clear. He saw that 10 moves ago. Marcus stared at the board in disbelief, his face pale as he realized he had walked directly into a trap of extraordinary sophistication. His queen was attacked, his king was exposed, and his entire position was crumbling under the weight of James's calculated assault. "I resign," Marcus said quietly, tipping over his king with trembling fingers. The conference room erupted in stunned silence, then excited whispers as the executives struggled to process what they had just witnessed. The quiet janitor they had barely noticed for 3 years had just demolished their chess-playing CEO with a display of skill that bordered on artistic. James sat back in his chair, his hands shaking slightly as the adrenaline of competition began to fade. He had forgotten how it felt to play at his true level, to let his mind work at full capacity against a worthy opponent. Even Marcus, despite his arrogance, had provided enough resistance to make the victory satisfying. "That was," Marcus began, then stopped, searching for words. "That was extraordinary chess. Who are you really?" For a moment, James considered deflecting the question, returning to his role as the invisible maintenance worker. But something in the faces around him, the genuine respect and curiosity he saw, made him decide to share at least part of his story. "My name is James Rodriguez," he began, his voice carrying a quiet dignity that commanded attention. 15 years ago, I was ranked 87th in the United States Chess Federation. I had just qualified for the national championship when my wife was diagnosed with late-stage cancer." The room fell completely silent as James continued, his words measured and calm despite the emotion behind them. "The medical bills came fast and hard. Insurance covered some of it, but not enough. I had to choose between pursuing chess and taking care of my family. There wasn't really a choice to make. He paused, looking at his calloused hands before continuing. After Maria died, I had Sophia to raise alone. Chess requires time for study, for travel to tournaments. I couldn't afford either. So I found work that would let me be home for my daughter every night. Cleaning offices pays the bills and keeps food on the table. Dr. Williams leaned forward, her scientific mind trying to process the implications of what she had just heard. You gave up a promising chess career to work as a janitor? I gave up chess to be a father, James corrected gently. The career was just a game. Sophia is my life. Marcus sat in stunned silence, his worldview shifting as he tried to reconcile the man he had just played with the invisible worker he had barely acknowledged for 3 years. The casual cruelty of his challenge now seemed monstrous in light of James's dignity and sacrifice. I made a promise, Marcus said slowly, his voice hoarse with emotion. I said I would fire myself if you won. He looked around the room at his executives, then back at James. I keep my promises, even the stupid ones. James shook his head, rising from his chair with quiet grace. You don't need to do that, sir. This was just a chess game. You have responsibilities here, people who depend on you. No, Marcus said firmly, standing as well. This wasn't just a chess game. This was a lesson in humility that I desperately needed. He turned to address the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be submitting my resignation to the board of directors effective immediately. Someone with actual character should be running this company. The executives exchanged glances of shock and confusion. This wasn't how anyone had expected the afternoon to unfold. Sarah Chen found her voice first. Marcus, you don't have to do anything dramatic. We all learned something today. But Marcus had already made up his mind. He walked to his desk and began gathering his personal items, his movements deliberate and final. I've spent my entire career believing that success was about dominance, about keeping people in their place. Today I learned that real strength comes from sacrifice and dignity, qualities I've never had to develop. And James watched the scene unfold with growing discomfort. He had never intended to destroy anyone's career, only to defend his own dignity in the face of casual humiliation. Mr. Lane, please reconsider. Everyone deserves a chance to learn and grow. And everyone deserves to face consequences for their actions, Marcus replied, closing his briefcase with finality. I publicly humiliated you for my own entertainment. That's not leadership, that's cruelty. As Marcus prepared to leave, he turned back to James one final time. For what it's worth, that was the most beautiful chess game I've ever seen. You played with a combination of tactical brilliance and strategic depth that I've only read about in chess books. Your father would be proud. James felt tears threatening as memories of his father surfaced. The old man had indeed been proud, attending every tournament and celebrating each victory as if his son had conquered the world. He was proud, James said softly. He always said that chess taught life lessons, patience, planning, accepting responsibility for your decisions. The room remained quiet as Marcus gathered his coat and headed for the door. But before leaving, he paused and addressed the executives one final time. Camus Rodriguez is not just a janitor. He's a man who gave up his dreams to take care of his family, who faces each day with dignity despite circumstances that would break most people. If any of you can't see the honor in that, then you don't belong in leadership positions either. With that, Marcus Lane walked out of the conference room and out of Pinnacle Industries forever, leaving behind a stunned group of executives and one janitor who had just rediscovered a part of himself he thought was lost forever. In the days that followed, word of the chess match spread throughout the company with the speed of wildfire. James found himself in the uncomfortable position of being the center of attention, something he had spent 3 years carefully avoiding. Executives who had never spoken to him before stopped by his custodial station to chat, and several offered to sponsor his return to competitive chess. Dr. Williams approached him on a Tuesday morning as he was cleaning the research lab. James, I've been thinking about our conversation after the chess match. Have you ever considered teaching? James paused in his cleaning, looking at the respected scientist with curiosity. Teaching, ma'am? Chess instruction, she clarified. My son is 12 and has been begging for lessons. After watching you play, I think you could offer something special. The way you explained your thought process showed natural teaching ability. The idea intrigued James more than he expected. Teaching chess would allow him to stay connected to the game he loved while earning additional income to support Sophia's education. I hadn't considered it, but I suppose I could try. Word of James's potential availability as a chess instructor spread quickly through the company's informal networks. Within a week, he had received inquiries from a dozen families wanting lessons for their children. The hourly rate they offered was more than double what he earned cleaning, and the flexible schedule would still allow him to maintain his primary job. Sarah Chen found him in the marketing department the following Friday, her expression thoughtful. "James, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course, Ms. Chen. Do you ever regret the choice you made? Giving up chess for your family?" James considered the question carefully, the way he had learned to analyze chess positions. "Regret is a luxury I can't afford," he said finally. "Every choice has consequences. I chose to be present for my daughter's childhood, to be the stable foundation she needed after losing her mother. That choice cost me a chess career, but it gave me something more valuable." "What's that?" "Sophia's trust. Her laughter when she sees me come home each evening. Her confidence that no matter what happens in the world, her father will be there for her." James smiled, the expression transforming his weathered features. Chess trophies gather dust. A daughter's love lasts forever. The conversation stayed with Sarah long after James moved on to clean other offices. She found herself thinking about priorities and sacrifice, about the difference between success and significance. As head of marketing, she wielded considerable influence in shaping company culture. Perhaps it was time to use that influence more thoughtfully. 3 weeks after the famous chess match, the board of directors announced their selection for interim CEO while they conducted a formal search for Marcus's replacement. To everyone's surprise, they chose Dr. Patricia Williams, whose background in research and development brought a different perspective to corporate leadership. One of her first initiatives was establishing a company-wide mentorship program that paired executives with, quote, employees from different departments. The goal was breaking down the artificial barriers that had allowed people like James to remain invisible despite their extraordinary qualities. James found himself paired with Robert Nash, the chief financial officer who had recognized the sophisticated nature of his chess play. Their weekly meetings, initially awkward, evolved into genuine conversations about leadership, decision-making, and finding meaning in work. "You know," Robert said during one of their sessions, "I've been thinking about what Marcus said before he left, about real strength coming from sacrifice and dignity. I've spent my career climbing the corporate ladder, but I'm not sure I've developed much character along the way." James cleaned the conference room around them as they talked, the mundane task providing a comfortable rhythm for deeper conversation. "Character isn't about grand gestures," he offered. "It's about how you treat people when nobody important is watching. It's about keeping promises even when they're inconvenient. Like continuing to work as a janitor even though you could probably make more money teaching chess." James paused in his cleaning, considering the observation. "I made commitments when I took this job. My supervisor depends on me, and I depend on the steady income. Chess lessons are supplemental, not a replacement. At least not yet." The chess instruction had indeed become a significant part of James's life. His students ranged from curious beginners to ambitious tournament hopefuls, and he discovered that teaching gave him a different kind of satisfaction than playing. Watching young minds grasp complex concepts, seeing confidence build through systematic improvement, reminded him why he had fallen in love with chess in the first place. Sophia, now aware of her father's chess background, had begun joining him for lessons with his younger students. Her natural enthusiasm and ability to explain concepts in kid-friendly terms made her an excellent assistant instructor. For the first time since her mother's death, James saw his daughter fully engaged with something beyond schoolwork and television. "Dad, Mrs. Peterson wants to know if you'll consider coaching the middle school chess team," Sophia announced one evening over dinner. "She heard about you from Tommy's parents." The idea of coaching competitive chess stirred something deep in James's chest. The middle school had never fielded a strong chess team, lacking both expertise and resources, but with proper instruction and dedication, young players could develop rapidly. What do you think, Miha? Would you like your old man coaching at your school? Sophia's face lit up of excitement. That would be so cool. All my friends would know how awesome you are at chess. The middle school coaching position came with a modest stipend that, combined with private lessons, began to approach James's cleaning salary. For the first time in 3 years, he allowed himself to imagine a different future, one where chess might once again become central to his life. Dr. Williams, learning of James's coaching opportunity, made a decision that surprised even her. She requested a private meeting with him in her new corner office, the same space where Marcus had once displayed his expensive chess set. James, I have a proposition for you, she began without preamble. I've been watching how our mentorship program has developed, particularly your sessions with Robert. You have a gift for helping people see situations from different perspectives. James waited patiently for her to continue, unsure where the conversation was heading. I'd like to offer you a position in our new employee development department. The role would involve designing training programs that help managers understand leadership through decision-making frameworks. Think of it as chess principles applied to business situations. The offer was generous, nearly triple his current salary with full benefits and opportunities for advancement. It would allow him to leave custodial work behind while still maintaining his chess instruction and coaching. Most importantly, it would provide Sophia with the kind of financial security that can open doors to college and beyond. I'm honored by the offer, Dr. Williams, but I'm not sure I'm qualified for that kind of position. I don't have a business degree or corporate training experience. What you have is something much rarer, she replied. You have the ability to think several moves ahead, to see patterns that others miss, and to make decisions based on long-term consequences rather than short-term gains. Those are exactly the skills we need in leadership development. James asked for time to consider the offer, a request Dr. Williams readily granted. That evening, he discussed the opportunity with Sophia over their usual dinner of homemade tacos and homework review. What do you think I should do, Miha? Sophia, wise beyond her 8 years, looked at her father with serious consideration. Will it make you happy, Dad? I think it might. It would let me use my chess knowledge to help people, and it would give us more financial security. Then you should do it, she said simply. Mom always said you were meant for more than cleaning offices. The memory of Maria's words, delivered through their daughter's innocent voice, brought tears to James's eyes. His wife had always believed in his potential, even when he couldn't see it himself. Perhaps it was time to honor that faith by accepting new challenges. 2 months later, Jaimes Rodriguez began his new role as senior consultant in employee development at Pinnacle Industries. His first project involved creating a leadership workshop based on chess principles, designed to help managers develop strategic thinking and emotional intelligence. The irony wasn't lost on him that he was now conducting training sessions in the same conference room where Marcus had challenged him to that fateful chess game. The expensive chess set had been replaced with a simple wooden board and plastic pieces, tools chosen for function rather than status. James's workshops quickly became some of the most popular offerings in the company's professional development program. His ability to translate complex strategic concepts into practical applications resonated with managers across all departments. More importantly, his emphasis on character and ethical decision-making began to influence the company's culture in subtle but meaningful ways. The middle school chess team, under James's guidance, achieved their first-ever regional championship. Sophia, now a proud member of the team despite being younger than most players, had developed into a formidable competitor in her own right. Her natural tactical vision combined with her father's patient instruction created a playing style that regularly surprised opponents. Dad, are you ever going to play in tournaments again? Sophia asked one evening as they analyzed one of her games. James had been wondering the same thing. His chess strength had returned gradually through teaching and analysis, and several former colleagues had suggested he consider a comeback. The United States Chess Federation still recognized his old rating, and at 42, he wasn't too old to compete at a high level. Would you like me to? He asked. I think you should do whatever makes you happy. But I'd love to watch you play in a real tournament sometime. The conversation planted a seed that grew over the following weeks. James began entering online tournaments to test his current strength, and the results were encouraging. His understanding of chess had actually deepened during his years away from competition, seasoned by experience and freed from the anxieties of youth. His return to tournament play began modestly with local weekend events, but news of the former master's comeback spread quickly through chess communities. His games attracted attention for their positional depth and psychological insight, qualities that had developed during his years of teaching and reflection. Dr. Williams, learning of James's chess activities, suggested that Pinnacle Industries sponsor his tournament play as part of their community engagement initiatives. The idea of a company supporting an employee's chess career generated positive publicity and reinforced the corporate culture changes she was implementing. James's first major tournament in 15 years was the Regional Open, held in a hotel ballroom filled with players ranging from scholastic beginners to international masters. Sophia accompanied him, wide-eyed with excitement as she watched her father prepare for serious competition. His first-round opponent was a young master, rated 200 points higher than James's old rating. The game began quietly, with both players maneuvering carefully in a position that demanded precise calculation and strategic understanding. As the game progressed, James felt the familiar rhythm of hill-level competition returning. His moves flowed naturally, each decision building upon years of accumulated knowledge and hard-won wisdom. The young master played aggressively, seeking tactical complications that might favor his superior calculating speed. But James had learned patience during his years away from chess. He absorbed the pressure calmly, finding defensive resources and gradually steering the game toward positions that favored experience over raw calculation. When the breakthrough came, it was subtle but devastating. A quiet move that undermined his opponent's entire position. "Resign," the young master said, with grudging respect. That was beautifully played. James's return to competitive chess wasn't just about personal redemption. It became a symbol of second chances and the enduring power of human potential. His story resonated with chess players and non-players alike, inspiring those who had abandoned dreams for practical necessities. The media attention that followed his tournament success led to speaking opportunities at chess clubs, schools, and corporate events. James found himself sharing his story of sacrifice, perseverance, and the courage to pursue delayed dreams. Each speaking engagement reinforced his belief that chess was more than a game. It was a metaphor for life's challenges and possibilities. Sophia, now recognized as a rising talent in scholastic chess, often accompanied her father to these events. Her presence reminded audiences that some sacrifices lead not to endings, but to new beginnings, not to loss, but to different forms of victory. 1 year after the chess match that changed everything, James stood in the same Pinnacle Industries conference room, but this time as a respected colleague rather than an invisible worker. He was conducting a leadership workshop for the company's newest group of managers, using chess positions to illustrate decision-making principles. "Chess teaches us that every move has consequences," he explained to the attentive audience. "The key to good decision-making isn't avoiding mistakes. It's understanding the long-term implications of our choices and taking responsibility for the outcomes." As he spoke, James caught sight of his reflection in the conference room windows. The man looking back was still the same person who had pushed a cleaning cart through these halls, but his eyes held a confidence and purpose that had been missing for years. He had rediscovered not just his chess ability, but his sense of self-worth and possibility. After the workshop, Dr. Williams approached him with a smile. "James, I have some news that might interest you. The board has approved funding for a corporate chess program, including sponsorship for a company tournament team. They'd like you to serve as playing captain." The offer represented another opportunity to integrate chess more fully into his professional life. Leading a corporate team would allow him to compete at a high level, while mentoring other employee players and representing the company's values of strategic thinking and ethical competition. That evening, James shared the news with Sophia over dinner in their small but comfortable apartment. The walls now displayed chess trophies from both father and daughter, along with photos from tournaments and teaching events that documented their shared journey back to the game they both loved. "So what do you think, Mia? Should your old man become a playing captain?" Sophia grinned, her eyes bright with pride and excitement. "I think you should do it, Dad, but only if I can be the team mascot." James laughed, reaching across the table to squeeze his daughter's hand. "Deal, but you'll have to promise not to give away our secret strategies to the competition." As they cleaned up after dinner, Sophia suddenly grew thoughtful. "Dad, do you think Mom would be proud of how everything turned out?" James paused in his dishwashing, his mind drifting to memories of Maria and the dreams they had shared before cancer changed everything. "I think she would be amazed," he said softly. "She always believed that good things come to people who don't give up on themselves or each other. We never gave up, did we?" "Never," Sophia agreed, hugging her father tightly. "And we never will." Outside their apartment window, the city lights twinkled like stars, illuminating countless stories of struggle and triumph, sacrifice and redemption. James Rodriguez's story was just one among millions, but it carried a truth that resonated beyond chessboards and corporate conference rooms. That dignity maintained in difficult circumstances can lead to unexpected opportunities, that skills practiced in one context can find application in others, and that sometimes the moves that seem like sacrifices turn out to be the foundations of victory. The expensive chess set that had once symbolized Marcus Lane's arrogance now gathered dust in a storage unit, its monetary value unchanged, but its significance forever diminished. In its place, simple wooden pieces continued to teach lessons about strategy, character, and the enduring power of human potential to a new generation of players who understood that the real game was never about the street pieces themselves, but about the minds that moved them and the hearts that found meaning in the ancient dance of 6-4 squares. James Rodriguez had learned that some contests are won not through dominance, but through dignity, not through intimidation, but through integrity, and not through wealth, but through wisdom earned through sacrifice and perseverance. His first move in that long-ago conference room had indeed stunned everyone. But perhaps the most surprising outcome was not the victory itself, but the discovery that endings can become beginnings, and that sometimes the most important wins come not from defeating others, but from rediscovering ourselves. The corporate chess team that James captained proved to be more than just a competitive venture. It became a symbol of Pinnacle Industries' transformation under Dr. Williams' leadership. The team consisted of 12 employees from various departments, ranging from entry-level analysts to senior vice presidents, all united by their passion for the ancient game and their respect for their captain's cash. Extraordinary story. Their first major competition was the National Corporate Chess Championship, held in Chicago during a weekend in late autumn. The tournament attracted teams from Fortune 500 companies across the country, each hoping to claim bragging rights and the substantial prize fund that came with victory. James had spent months preparing his teammates, not just teaching them chess theory, but instilling the kind of mental discipline and strategic thinking that separated good players from great ones. Sophia, now 10 years old and a formidable player in her own right, accompanied the team as their official analyst. Her role involved studying their opponents' games from previous tournaments and helping identify weaknesses that could be exploited during competition. Despite her age, her tactical vision had sharpened to the point where even adult players sought her input on complex positions. "Dad, I've been looking at the Goldman Sachs team," Sophia announced, during their flight to Chicago, her laptop screen displaying chess databases and analysis engines. "Their board 3-player always struggles against the Sicilian dragon variation. If Marcus gets paired against him, we should definitely recommend that opening." Marcus Hendricks, not to be confused with the former CEO Marcus Lane, was a talented accountant from the financial department who had joined the chess team 6 months earlier. His aggressive playing style and fearless tactical approach made him perfect for handling sharp, complex positions that intimidated more cautious players. James smiled at his daughter's analytical precision, remembering his own youth spent poring over chess magazines and tournament bulletins. "Excellent work, Miha. What about their top board?" Eleanor Rodriguez. No relation to us despite the name. Sophia continued, scrolling through game records. She's rated about 200 points higher than you, but she has a tendency to overextend in the middle game when she's trying to press for advantages. Patient defense followed by counterattack might work well. The tournament venue was a grand ballroom in downtown Chicago, filled with hundreds of chessboards and the quiet intensity that characterized serious competition. Teams sat together at designated tables, their matching polo shirts and corporate logos creating a colorful tapestry of American business culture, intersecting with the intellectual battlefield of chess. During the opening ceremony, James found himself reflecting on how far his life had traveled since that fateful afternoon in the Pinnacle Industries conference room. 2 years had passed since his confrontation with Marcus Lane, and the ripple effects continued to shape not just his own destiny, but the lives of everyone around him. Dr. Williams approached their team table, her presence commanding respect from competitors and teammates alike. As CEO, she had made corporate chess sponsorship a cornerstone of the company's community engagement strategy, and other businesses had begun following suit. "How are we feeling about our chances?" she asked James quietly, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who had learned to trust his judgment completely. "We're prepared," James replied simply. "The team has worked hard, and they understand that chess success comes from thorough preparation combined with calm execution under pressure. Whatever happens today, they'll represent the company with dignity and skill." The first-round pairings were announced, and James found himself matched against the captain of the Microsoft team, a software engineer named David Chen, who held the title of National Master and had represented the United States in international correspondence chess competitions. The pairing immediately attracted attention from tournament directors and spectators, as it matched two of the event's strongest players in the opening round. As James sat down across from his opponent, he felt the familiar combination of nervousness and excitement that preceded important games. David Chen was younger, higher rated, and had been playing competitive chess without interruption for the past 15 years. But James carried something his opponent lacked: the wisdom that comes from understanding what truly matters in life and competition. The game began with classical opening moves, both players developing their pieces with the precision of masters who understood the importance of solid foundations. James chose the English opening, a flexible system that allowed for various pawn structures and strategic plans depending on how black responded. Chen opted for a symmetrical formation, mirroring white's moves in the center while keeping his options open for later tactical complications. The position developed slowly, with both players maneuvering their pieces toward optimal squares while probing for weaknesses in their opponent's camp. 20 moves into the game, a critical moment arose. Chen offered a pawn sacrifice that would open lines toward James's king, but also create long-term structural weaknesses in black's position. It was the kind of decision that required not just calculation, but deep positional understanding and risk assessment. James studied the position for nearly 15 minutes, his mind working through variations while also considering the psychological aspects of the choice. Accepting the pawn would lead to sharp tactical play that favored the younger, more tactically sharp opponent. Declining it would maintain the strategic complexity that played to James's strengths in patient maneuvering and endgame technique. He declined the sacrifice, with a quiet move that improved his position while forcing Chen to find a new plan. The decision proved wise, as the game gradually simplified into an endgame where James's superior technique and experience began to tell. The final phase lasted another 40 moves, with James demonstrating the kind of precise endgame play that had once earned him national ranking. His pawns advanced in coordinated waves, while his king and rook worked together to create unstoppable threats against Chen's position. When Chen finally resigned, extending his hand with genuine respect, the game had lasted over 4 hours and attracted a crowd of spectators impressed by the quality of play. James had not only won his individual game, but had established Pinnacle Industries as a serious contender for the team championship. "That was exceptional chess," Chen said, as they analyzed the critical moments together. "Your endgame technique reminds me of the classic masters. Where did you develop that level of precision?" James smiled, thinking of the countless hours he had spent studying positions from Capablanca, Rubinstein, and other endgame artists during his youth. My father taught me that chess games are won in the endings. He made me practice simple positions until I could play them blindfolded. The team results from the first round were encouraging. Pinnacle Industries had won 7 matches out of 12, putting them in third place behind Goldman Sachs and a technology startup from Silicon Valley that had recruited several international masters as consultants. During the break between rounds, Sophia approached her father with her laptop displaying analysis of their next opponents. "Dad, I've been studying the team from Austin Tech Solutions. Their board 2 player has an unusual style that might cause problems for our people." James reviewed her analysis, impressed as always by his daughter's ability to identify patterns that less experienced players might miss. The Austin team's second board was a woman named Rebecca Torres, who favored unorthodox openings and tactical complications that could disorient unprepared opponents. "Good catch, Mija. I'll make sure Jennifer knows to expect something unusual and to play for simple development rather than trying to refute whatever opening Rebecca chooses." Jennifer Walsh was Pinnacle's board 2 player, a marketing director whose systematic approach to both business and chess made her perfect for handling opponents who relied on surprise and complexity. Her games rarely featured brilliant tactics or spectacular combinations, but she won consistently through superior preparation and strategic understanding. The second round began with James facing a corporate lawyer from Austin who played chess with the same aggressive confidence he brought to courtroom battles. The man's opening choice was sound but predictable, and James quickly achieved a comfortable position with better piece coordination and central control. Meanwhile, Jennifer was indeed facing the unorthodox opening system that Sophia had predicted. Rebecca Torres had chosen a rare variation that involved an early queen sortie and unusual piece development. But Jennifer remained calm, focusing on fundamental principles, rather than trying to punish her opponent's irregular moves immediately. The round concluded with another strong result for Pinnacle Industries. James had won his game in convincing fashion. Jennifer had successfully navigated the tactical complications to reach a superior endgame, and the team had improved their overall standing to second place behind Bales. Goldman Sachs. That evening, the entire team gathered in James's hotel room for dinner and preparation for the final round. Pizza boxes and chess sets covered every available surface as they analyzed their opponents and refined their strategies for the decisive matches. "Tomorrow we face Goldman Sachs for the championship," James announced, his voice carrying the authority of a captain who had earned his team's complete trust. "They're strong players with excellent preparation, but they haven't faced anything like what we bring to the board." Sophia, surrounded by chess books and her laptop, looked up from her analysis with excitement. "Their team captain is Maria Santos, the woman who won the National Women's Championship 3 years ago. She's incredibly strong in tactical positions but sometimes struggles when games become purely positional." James nodded, having reached similar conclusions about Santos during his own preparation. "The key will be steering our games toward positions that favor our strengths while avoiding the sharp tactical battles where Goldman's players excel." The team spent hours discussing specific openings, reviewing critical positions, and building the kind of collective confidence that separated championship teams from talented individuals. James watched his teammates with pride, seeing how chess had brought together people from different departments and backgrounds in pursuit of a common goal. Dr. Williams joined them for the final hour of preparation, bringing news that would add extra motivation for the championship round. "I just received word from the tournament directors that tomorrow's matches will be broadcast live on the Chess Network. Thousands of viewers will be watching our games." The prospect of national television coverage added pressure, but James had learned long ago that pressure was simply another element to be managed, like time on the clock or pawn structure weaknesses. He addressed his team with the calm confidence of someone who had faced much greater challenges than a chess tournament. "Tomorrow, we play chess the way we've prepared to play it," he said simply. "We trust our preparation, we support each other, and we remember that whatever happens, we've already achieved something remarkable by reaching this point." The championship round began at 10 a.m., with television cameras positioned to capture the drama of corporate America's brightest minds battling over 6-4 squares. James found himself at board 1 facing Maria Santos. a woman whose reputation for tactical brilliance was matched only by her fierce competitive drive. Santos chose an aggressive opening system designed to create immediate tactical complications and put pressure on James's somewhat rusty tactical calculation abilities. But James had anticipated this approach and responded with a solid, positional setup that avoided early confrontations while gradually building strategic advantages. The critical moment came on move 18, when Santos offered a knight sacrifice that would have led to a direct attack against James's king. The sacrifice was theoretically sound, though required precise follow-up and perfect calculation under time pressure. James studied the position carefully, his experience telling him that acceptance would lead to unclear complications where one mistake could be decisive. He declined the sacrifice with a move that consolidated his position while maintaining his material advantage. Santos, committed to her attacking plan, was forced to continue with inferior alternatives that gradually weakened her position without creating real threats. As the game progressed, James began demonstrating the kind of strategic mastery that had once earned him national recognition. His pieces coordinated beautifully, his pawns advanced with purpose, and his king remained safe behind carefully constructed defenses. The turning point came when Santos, frustrated by her inability to create concrete threats, attempted a desperate combination that backfired spectacularly. James's response was swift and merciless, his pieces converging on Black's exposed king with mathematical precision. "I resign," Santos said quietly, extending her hand with the grace of a champion who recognized superior play. "That was masterful chess. You completely outplayed me from the opening." Around the tournament hall, the other matches were concluding with mixed results for both teams. The championship would be decided by the final game to finish. A tense endgame between Pinnacle's Board 5 player and Goldman's youngest team member. James and his teammates gathered around the critical board, watching as their colleague navigated a complex rook endgame with material equality but superior pawn structure. The position required precise technique and nerves of steel, qualities that James had spent months helping his teammates develop. When the final move was played and Goldman's player resigned, Pinnacle Industries had achieved what seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. A corporate chess championship won by a team led by a man who had once been invisible to the executives he now called colleagues. The victory ceremony was emotional for everyone involved, but especially for James and Sophia. As he lifted the championship trophy, James thought about the journey that had brought him to this moment. From the desperate years after Maria's death, through the humiliation and unexpected triumph in that conference room, to this pinnacle of team achievement. Dr. Williams joined them on stage, her smile radiant as she addressed the audience of competitors, media, and chess enthusiasts. "This championship represents more than chess excellence," she said into the microphone. "It represents the power of recognizing talent wherever it exists, of creating environments where people can develop their full potential, and of understanding that true leadership comes through service to others." The months following the championship victory brought new opportunities and challenges for James and his growing influence in both corporate and chess worlds. Speaking invitations poured in from business conferences, chess tournaments, and educational institutions eager to hear his story of redemption and success. One particularly meaningful invitation came from the United States Chess Federation, asking James to serve on their committee for scholastic chess development. The position would allow him to influence how chess education was delivered to young players across the country, potentially preventing other talented individuals from losing connection with the game due to circumstances beyond their control. "It's a chance to give back to the chess community that shaped me," James explained to Sophia during one of their evening walks around their neighborhood. "I can help create programs that support young players from families who might not be able to afford traditional chess instruction." Sophia, now a tournament regular herself and ranked among the top players in her age group nationally, understood the significance of her father's appointment. "You could help kids like Tommy Rodriguez," she said, referring to a classmate whose family had immigrated from Honduras and couldn't afford private chess lessons despite their son's obvious talent. James had indeed begun working with Tommy and several other promising but economically disadvantaged young players in their community. His apartment had become an informal chess academy on weekends, with children gathering around makeshift tournament boards to learn not just chess moves, but life lessons about perseverance, strategic thinking, and gracious competition. The success of his informal teaching led to a proposal that would significantly expand his impact. The local community center approached James about establishing a formal chess program for underserved youth, complete with equipment, tournament opportunities, and pathways to competitive play for exceptional students. The program would require James to reduce his corporate responsibilities at Pinnacle Industries, but Dr. Williams immediately offered the company's support. "James, you've already transformed our corporate culture beyond what we imagined possible," she told him during a private meeting. "If you want to expand your influence to help young people discover chess, we'll adjust your role to make that possible." The James Rodriguez Youth Chess Foundation launched 6 months later with a mission statement that reflected its founder's core beliefs. Chess excellence emerges from disciplined study, respectful competition, and the understanding that true victory comes through personal growth rather than defeating others. The foundation's first major success came when Tommy Rodriguez won the state scholastic championship for his age group, earning a full scholarship to a prestigious chess camp that would have been impossible for his family to afford otherwise. Tommy's victory represented more than individual achievement. It validated James's belief that talent exists everywhere but opportunity remains unevenly distributed. Sophia, now 11 and a tournament veteran, had developed into her father's most trusted assistant at the foundation. Her ability to connect with younger children while demonstrating advanced chess concepts made her invaluable to the program's success. She also served as living proof that chess excellence and normal childhood development could coexist beautifully. "Dad, I've been thinking about something," Sophia said during one of their preparation sessions for an upcoming tournament. "What if we started a program where kids from our foundation could play online matches against students from other countries? It might help them understand that chess is a universal language." The suggestion demonstrated the kind of global thinking that impressed James about his daughter's developing worldview. Within months, the foundation had established partnerships with youth chess programs in Mexico, India, and Eastern Europe, creating opportunities for cultural exchange alongside competitive play. These international connections led to an unexpected opportunity for James himself. The World Chess Federation invited him to serve as a coach for their development program in Central America, working with promising young players from countries with limited chess infrastructure. The 3-week assignment in Guatemala brought James full circle with his own heritage and reminded him why chess had originally captured his imagination. Working with children who had learned the game using handmade pieces and improvised boards, he rediscovered the pure joy of chess discovery that sometimes gets lost amid ratings, trophies, and competitive pressure. "These kids play chess with the same passion I felt at their age," James wrote to Sophia in one of his daily emails from Guatemala. "They don't have fancy equipment or computer analysis, but they understand that chess is about creativity, problem-solving, and respect for opponents. They're teaching me as much as I'm teaching them." The Guatemalan experience inspired James to write a book about chess education that would eventually become a standard reference for scholastic programs. Chess as Life Teacher combined practical instruction with philosophical reflection, showing how the ancient game could develop critical thinking skills while building character and cultural understanding. The book's publication brought James to national attention as a chess educator and philosopher. Television appearances, podcast interviews, and speaking engagements at major conferences established him as a leading voice for chess education reform and the importance of making the game accessible to all economic backgrounds. Despite his growing prominence, James remained grounded in the daily work of teaching and mentoring. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening found him at the community center, working with his foundation students on everything from basic tactics to tournament preparation. His approach emphasized understanding over memorization, creativity over calculation, and sportsmanship over winning at any cost. One of his most rewarding relationships developed with Maria Santos, the former Goldman Sachs team captain who had faced him in the corporate championship final. After retiring from competitive play, Santos had become interested in chess education and sought James's guidance for a program she was developing in her native Puerto Rico. Their collaboration resulted in a bilingual chess curriculum that could be adapted for Spanish-speaking communities throughout the Americas. The program emphasized cultural pride alongside chess excellence, showing students how the game connected them to a rich international tradition, while developing skills applicable to any field of study or work. James has shown me that chess education is about much more than creating strong players, Santos reflected during a joint presentation at the National Education Association conference. It's about creating strong human beings who understand that every decision has consequences, and every opponent deserves respect. The curriculum they developed together eventually reached thousands of students across 12 countries, creating a network of young chess players who shared not just tactical knowledge, but cultural understanding and mutual respect. James often received emails from former students who credited chess training with helping them succeed in college, careers, and personal relationships. Sophia, now 13, and preparing for her first international tournament, had become a bridge between her father's various roles and responsibilities. She assisted with foundation classes, helped translate materials for the Spanish language program, and served as a role model for younger girls discovering chess in communities where the game was sometimes seen as exclusively masculine. Her upcoming trip to the World Youth Chess Championship in Romania would be her first major international competition, and James found himself experiencing the same mixture of pride and nervousness that his own father had felt decades earlier. "Are you worried about the competition level?" James asked during one of their preparation sessions, watching Sophia analyze games from previous World Youth Championships. "A little," she admitted honestly. "But mostly I'm excited to play against the best players my age from around the world. That's how you really learn what you need to improve." Her mature perspective on competition reflected the values James had tried to instill through years of chess education that emphasized process over results, learning over winning, and respect over domination. Sophia understood that the tournament would be valuable regardless of her final ranking, because it would expose her to new ideas and higher levels of play. The Romania trip would also mark a significant milestone in James's own chess journey. The World Chess Federation had invited him to serve as a coach for the United States delegation, recognizing his unique combination of high-level playing experience and educational expertise. Working with the country's top young players reminded James of his own youth and the dreams he had carried before life circumstances forced different choices. But rather than feeling regret for paths not taken, he experienced gratitude for the circuitous route that had led him to this moment of contributing to the next generation's development. "I think I'm a better coach now than I would have been 20 years ago," he confided to Dr. Williams during a video call from Romania. "The experiences I had raising Sophia alone, working as a janitor, building the foundation, they all taught me things about patience and perspective that pure chess success never could have provided." The tournament results exceeded everyone's expectations. Sophia finished in the top 10 in her age group, earning recognition as one of the world's promising young talents. More importantly, she handled both victory and defeat with the grace and sportsmanship that her father had emphasized throughout her chess education. Several members of the United States team credited James's coaching with helping them achieve breakthrough performances. His emphasis on mental preparation, strategic understanding, and emotional control had given them tools for managing the pressure of international competition. The success in Romania led to additional coaching opportunities with elite young players. But James remained committed to his foundation work and the belief that chess education should benefit everyone, not just the most talented or privileged students. His next major project involved partnering with the Department of Education to develop chess curricula for public schools in underserved communities. The program would integrate chess instruction with math, reading, and social studies education, demonstrating how the game could support broader academic achievement. Chess teaches the same critical thinking skills that students need for scientific reasoning, literary analysis, and historical understanding, James explained during congressional testimony supporting federal funding for scholastic chess programs. When students learn to analyze chess positions, they're developing cognitive abilities that transfer to every subject area. The federal program eventually reached over 200 schools across 30 states, creating opportunities for thousands of students to discover chess while strengthening their academic performance. Independent evaluations showed significant improvements in problem-solving skills, attention span, and academic confidence among participating students. James's influence on chess education had grown far beyond what he could have imagined during those difficult years cleaning corporate offices. But perhaps his greatest achievement was the example he provided of how setbacks can become foundations for greater success. How dignity maintained during difficult circumstances can lead to unexpected opportunities, and how true leadership emerges through service to others rather than personal advancement. Standing in his apartment on a quiet Sunday evening, surrounded by chess books, tournament trophies, and photos documenting his remarkable journey, James reflected on the unpredictable path that had brought him to this point. Sophia was at her desk completing homework, occasionally asking for help with algebra problems that required the same logical thinking that made her formidable at the chessboard. The expensive chess set that had triggered his transformation now seemed like ancient history, its significance diminished by the thousands of games played on simple boards in community centers, schools, and tournament halls around the world. The real value had never been in the pieces themselves, but in the minds that moved them and the lives that were enriched through the process. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. Foundation students to teach, curriculum materials to develop, and perhaps most importantly, the ongoing adventure of raising a daughter who understood that excellence in any field required dedication, humility, and respect for others. James Rodriguez had learned that some victories are measured not in trophies won, but in lives touched, not in ratings achieved, but in character developed, and not in opponents defeated, but in communities strengthened. His first move in that corporate conference room had indeed stunned everyone, but the moves that followed had created something far more valuable than personal vindication. They had created a legacy of service, education, and the unwavering belief that human potential, once recognized and nurtured, knows no boundaries. The phone call that would change everything once again came on a Tuesday morning in early spring, 3 years after the corporate championship that had elevated James to national prominence in chess education circles. Sophia, now 14 and preparing for her junior year of high school, was already at school when the caller identified herself as Elena Vasquez, president of the International Chess Education Foundation. "Mr. Rodriguez, I'm calling with an opportunity that could significantly expand your impact on global chess education," Elena began, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to managing multi-million-dollar initiatives. "We've been following your work with the Youth Foundation and your curriculum development with great interest. Would you be available to discuss leading our new global chess literacy initiative?" The position would involve coordinating chess education programs across 40 countries, working with governments, schools, and community organizations to integrate chess instruction into mainstream education systems. The salary was generous enough to allow James to leave his corporate role entirely and focus exclusively on chess education, but more importantly, the platform would amplify his impact exponentially. James requested time to consider the offer and discuss it with Sophia, whose opinion had become increasingly important in his major life decisions. That evening over dinner, he outlined the opportunity and its implications for their lives together. It would mean significant travel, he explained, watching his daughter's reaction carefully. Probably 6 months a year in different countries, setting up programs and training teachers. You could come with me during school breaks, but it would mean less time together during the academic year. Sophia had inherited her father's analytical approach to important decisions, and she spent several minutes considering all the factors involved. "Dad, how many kids could you help with this program?" "Potentially millions," James replied honestly. The foundation estimates that full implementation could reach every elementary school in the participating countries within 5 years. "Then I think you have to do it," Sophia said with the same quiet certainty that had characterized her chess moves since childhood. "We can handle being apart more, if it means helping that many children discover chess. Besides, I'm old enough now to be more independent, and the travel experiences could be incredible educational opportunities for me too." Her mature perspective reminded James of how much his daughter had grown, not just as a chess player, but as a young woman capable of thinking beyond her immediate interests to consider broader impacts and consequences. The foundation had indeed raised her with values that prioritized service and contribution over personal comfort. James accepted the position 2 weeks later, beginning what would become known in chess education circles as the Rodriguez Doctrine, a comprehensive approach to integrating chess instruction with traditional academic subjects while maintaining focus on character development and cultural understanding. His first major assignment took him to Kenya, where the government had committed to introducing chess education in rural schools as part of their STEM development initiative. The challenges were immediate and complex. Teacher training in communities where chess was unknown, equipment distribution to schools without reliable transportation infrastructure, and curriculum adaptation for students whose primary language was LE, not English. Working with local educators, James discovered that chess concepts could be effectively communicated through traditional African games and storytelling methods. The pawns became warriors, protecting their village. The pieces worked together like family members, with different roles and responsibilities, and strategic thinking was presented as wisdom passed down through generations of tribal leaders. The Kenya program's success led to invitations from other African nations, and within 6 months, James was coordinating similar initiatives in Uganda, Tanzania, and Ghana. Each country presented unique challenges that required creative adaptation while maintaining the core educational principles that made chess instruction effective. Sophia joined him during her summer vacation, serving as a junior cultural ambassador who connected easily with local students despite language barriers. Her chess skills impressed teachers and students alike, but her ability to teach through demonstration and patient encouragement proved even more valuable to the program's success. The kids here learn so quickly once they understand the basic concepts, Sophia observed during their work in a Ugandan village school. They don't have the distractions that American students face, so they can really focus on understanding each position deeply. James noticed the same phenomenon across all the African programs. Students who had never seen electronic devices approached chess with the kind of concentrated attention that produced rapid improvement and genuine understanding. Their games featured creative solutions and intuitive positional play that often surprised more technically trained opponents. The success in Africa attracted attention from educational ministries in South America, leading to James's next major assignment in Brazil. The challenges there were different, but equally complex, integrating chess education into existing curricula in overcrowded urban schools while addressing the needs of indigenous communities in remote regions. Working with Brazilian educators, James developed a Portuguese language version of his curriculum that incorporated local cultural elements and addressed the specific learning needs of students from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. The program emphasized chess as a tool for social mobility and personal development, showing students how strategic thinking could help them navigate challenges both on and off the board. The Brazilian initiative included an innovative component that paired students from wealthy private schools with peers from favelas and rural communities for online chess matches and cultural exchange. The program broke down social barriers while demonstrating that intelligence and creativity existed across all economic levels. Chess becomes a universal language that allows kids from completely different backgrounds to connect and learn from each other, James explained during a presentation to education ministers from across Latin America. A brilliant tactical idea works the same way whether it comes from a student in Sao Paulo or a rural village in the Amazon. The Latin American programs eventually expanded to include Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, and Argentina, creating a network of young chess players who maintained connections across national boundaries. Annual tournaments brought together the most promising students, fostering friendships that transcended political and economic differences. Sophia's role in these programs continued to evolve as she developed fluency in Spanish and Portuguese, while advancing her own chess skills through exposure to diverse playing styles and cultural approaches to the game. Her experiences traveling with her father had transformed her into a remarkably mature and globally minded teenager. "I think I want to study international relations in college," she announced during one of their flights between countries. This work you're doing shows how education can build bridges between cultures and create understanding that might prevent conflicts. Her career aspirations reflected the influence of witnessing firsthand how chess education could bring together students from different backgrounds while developing skills that extended far beyond the game itself. James felt profound pride watching his daughter develop her own vision for contributing to global understanding and cooperation. The success of the African and Latin American programs led to James's most challenging assignment yet, implementing chess education in refugee camps across the Middle East. Working with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, he would attempt to bring chess instruction to displaced children who had experienced trauma and loss while living in temporary settlements. The psychological challenges were unlike anything James had encountered in his previous work. Many of the children had witnessed violence, lost family members, or been separated from their communities. Traditional approaches to chess education needed significant modification to address their emotional needs, while still providing cognitive benefits. Working with child psychologists and trauma specialists, James developed a therapeutic approach to chess instruction that emphasized emotional regulation, problem-solving confidence, and social connection. Games were shorter and less competitive, focusing on collaborative analysis and mutual support rather than victory and defeat. Chess gives these children something they control completely, explained Dr. Sarah Hassan, a psychologist working in the Jordanian refugee camp, where James piloted his modified program. In their lives, so many things happen to them without their choice. But when they sit at a chessboard, every decision is theirs, and they can see the direct results of their thinking. The refugee camp programs proved emotionally demanding for James, who found himself deeply affected by the resilience and hope displayed by children facing unimaginable circumstances. Many had lost parents, homes, and entire communities, yet they approached chess with eagerness and determination that inspired everyone involved. One student, a 12-year-old Syrian boy named Ahmed, had not spoken since arriving at the camp 6 months earlier after witnessing his father's death. But chess seemed to unlock something within him, and gradually he began communicating through moves, gestures, and eventually words, as his confidence grew through successful play. Ahmed started teaching his younger sister the moves, the camp's education coordinator reported after 2 months of chess instruction. It was the first time we've seen him take initiative or show interest in helping others since he arrived. Success stories like Ahmed's validated James's belief that chess could serve therapeutic purposes while developing cognitive abilities, but they also highlighted the enormous psychological toll of working with Kakanai. Traumatized populations. The emotional weight of the refugee work began affecting James's sleep and overall well-being, despite the program's obvious benefits. Sophia, now 15, and spending her junior year summer with her father in Lebanon, noticed the changes in his demeanor and energy level. Their evening conversations, once filled with excitement about program successes and cultural discoveries, became shorter and more subdued as James struggled to process the suffering he encountered daily. "Dad, maybe you need to take a break from this particular program," she suggested gently during one of their walks through Beirut. "You've been working with traumatized kids for 8 months straight. Even therapists take time off to avoid burnout." Her observation demonstrated the emotional intelligence she had developed through years of traveling and working alongside her father in challenging environments. James realized that his dedication to helping others had led him to neglect his own psychological needs, potentially compromising his effectiveness. He arranged for a 3-month sabbatical, during which he and Sophia returned to their home base in the United States to reconnect with their foundation work and spend time in familiar, comfortable surroundings. The break allowed James to process his refugee camp experiences while rediscovering the joy and optimism that had originally motivated his chess education mission. The time at home also provided opportunities to evaluate the global impact of his work over the previous 3 years. Independent assessments showed that chess programs James had implemented were reaching over 200,000 students across 23 countries, with measurable improvements in academic performance, social skills, and cultural understanding. More importantly, many former students had become chess teachers themselves, creating a multiplying effect that extended the program's reach far beyond what James could accomplish personally. The sustainable, locally driven approach he had developed ensured that chess education would continue growing, even in communities he had visited only briefly. "You've created something that lives and grows independently," Dr. Williams observed during a video call discussing the Foundation's latest impact report. "That's the hallmark of truly transformational leadership. When your work continues expanding without requiring your constant presence." The recognition that his approach had achieved genuine sustainability allowed James to consider his next phase of chess education work with renewed enthusiasm and strategic thinking. Rather than continuing to establish new programs constantly, he could focus on training master trainers who would carry the work forward in their own regions. This realization led to the development of the International Chess Education Institute, a training center where educators from around the world could spend intensive weeks learning James's methods while adapting them to their local contexts and needs. The institute would be located in Costa Rica, chosen for its political stability, educational infrastructure, and central location for participants from both North and South America. Sophia's reaction to the institute proposal reflected her continued growth as a strategic thinker and cultural ambassador. "It's brilliant, Dad. Instead of you traveling constantly to teach people individually, they come to one place where you can train groups efficiently, while they also learn from each other's different approaches and challenges." The institute concept represented a mature evolution of James's educational philosophy, recognizing that sustainable global change required empowering local leaders rather than depending on external expertise indefinitely. By training master trainers, he could multiply his impact while reducing the personal costs of constant international travel. Construction of the institute began in early autumn, with the first training cohort scheduled to arrive in 6 months. The facility would accommodate 30 participants at a time for intensive 2-week programs that combine chess education theory with hands-on practice, cultural exchange, and collaborative curriculum development. James's final major international assignment before the institute opened took him to India, where the government had committed to introducing chess education in 10,000 schools as part of their National Education Modernization Initiative. The scale was unprecedented, requiring coordination with hundreds of regional education officials and thousands of teacher trainers, working with Indian chess masters and education specialists. James adapted his curriculum to incorporate elements of the country's rich mathematical and philosophical traditions. Chess concepts were connected to ancient Indian strategic thinking, while modern pedagogical methods ensured that instruction remained engaging for contemporary students. The India program's launch event in New Delhi attracted global media attention, with education ministers from dozens of countries observing the opening ceremonies and implementation demonstrations. James found himself addressing an audience that included some of the world's most influential education policymakers. Chess education succeeds because it teaches students to think systematically about complex problems while considering multiple perspectives and long-term consequences, he explained to the international audience. These are exactly the cognitive skills that students need for success in our interconnected, rapidly changing world. The India program's early results exceeded even optimistic projections, with students showing remarkable improvement in mathematical reasoning, reading comprehension, and social cooperation within just 3 months of implementation. The success generated additional commitments from other Asian countries and established James as the world's leading authority on large-scale chess education implementation. As his time in India concluded and the institute's opening approached, James reflected on the incredible journey that had transformed him from a struggling janitor to an internationally recognized education leader. The path had been neither straight nor predictable, but each step had built upon previous experiences to create opportunities he never could have imagined. Standing in his Delhi hotel room on his final evening, watching the sun set over a city where thousands of children were learning to play chess because of programs he had designed, James felt the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing that his life's work had created lasting positive change in the world. Tomorrow, he would return home to Sofia and begin preparing for the institute's opening, the next chapter in a story that had begun with a single chess move in a corporate conference room years earlier.